Thank you very much to the IIC for the invitation, and I will take one of my 8 minutes to say that so BEREC is the body of European regulators in Europe of telecoms, and actually this year we have chosen India as a place where we have organized our study trip. Every year we make a study trip, and I wanted to say that the presentation of Mr. Sharma today really confirms me that India is really the place to be regarding telecom regulation in this time, and so take the opportunity of Mr. Sharma's being here to ask him questions, because I was really impressed about what he's done in terms of market regulation, net neutrality regulation, and innovation in regulation with all the digital tools. Having said that, what I wanted to present you today is something that we don't frequently discuss regarding regulation, but which is, in my view, maybe the most important thing in the telecom, is the question of innovation. When I mention innovation, you know, when you ask two people, are you for or against innovation? Everybody says, yeah, I'm for innovation. But the problem comes when you ask what kind of innovation. And my strong belief is that we as regulators have a really important role in terms of supporting one specific kind of innovation, which is permissionless innovation. We can empower entrepreneurs, creators of startups, to scale up, to launch their services, to find their market, not by micromanaging anything, not by subsidizing anything, but just by creating a pro-entrepreneur, pro-innovation environment. And I think that this is something that we not frequently assume, but we as regulators has a key role for the competitiveness of the digital environment. This is what I wanted to mention today. So I'm a little bit a 3G regulator. If I look at your 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, sorry for that. I'm only 3G, but I think that the 3G is something still important. So first of all, obviously the first tool that we have to promote a permissionless innovation system is net neutrality. So thanks to net neutrality rules, we can define a set of obligations that make possible for any startup of the world to access to open networks. And we know that the distributed characteristic of the internet, this permissionless system, the end-to-end nature of the internet, this freedom anchored in the architecture of the internet, has been of tremendous importance to allow the explosion of innovation over the internet. So this is basically our first tool. And you know that Europe has adopted a strong regulation in terms of net neutrality, and we have colleagues around the world that are working also on that. And well, I won't go into details, you know them. Some of them are around the panel. So what I wanted to insist on regarding net neutrality is that when one country, one continent is defending net neutrality, it's for the benefit of innovation all around the world. Because OTT players that benefit from these net neutrality rules can come from any country around the world. So if we want really, in the long term, defend net neutrality, it means that more or less all of us around the world have to work on that, so that it's a fair effort made by any regulatory environment to welcome innovation. Mr. Sharma has said it, so I will not go into details on that. Obviously, we see that today, if you are a startup and you want to innovate in the internet, let's be honest, telecom are not your main problem. It's more about big gatekeepers on the internet. app stores, Google AdWords, and so forth. And so we have to really be careful about possible new bottlenecks that could appear in the digital environment. And I'm happy to announce you that this will be one of the 5 strategic priority of BEREC over the 3 next years, looking at bottlenecks on the digital environment. And we will issue today a report that will be open to public consultation about how contents and device can influence the working of the telecom market. Well, if I would have to say in one word, I think that our job as regulator is to keep the doors wide open every time. Sometimes we could have the impression that the story is finished with the telecom market. We have done our job 20 years ago, but by opening the markets to competition, and now it's okay. Nothing to do anymore. But look at the Internet of Things. I mean, the Internet of Things is a kind of new, immense opportunity in the telecom sector to have new players, new technologies, new models. And when you look at the positions around the world about the tech giants, let's say, I think that the IoT can be an opportunity to go back in these battles for the continents that may a little bit lagging behind, like Europe, especially. Sorry, this is not the good slide. So what can we do to enhance innovation? Once again, it's not about being okay with innovation in a general term. The idea is how can we really support entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are innovations that don't exist today. So it's quite tricky, actually. So we have to be a little bit innovative on our part about how to promote innovation. So the first thing I think we can do is to organize regulatory sandbox. Regulatory sandbox, it's more than experimentation. It's giving the opportunity to a startup to launch its service. It's not an experiment, it's a really commercial launch of service, without applying to the startup the whole regulatory framework. In France, we have a law that has been passed last year that will authorize us to do so. We will have the opportunity to not apply not only the telecom, but also the consumer framework to startups in the telecom sector. The second thing we can do, and it's more linked to Internet of Things, it's about the different models, especially in the field of frequencies. What has worked so well, as I mentioned in my introduction, regarding the Internet, is the permissionless system, And we know that when it deals with spectrum, generally, we have this authorization regime, but we have also to organize, aside this very organized cathedral-like regime, also a bazaar-like regime, which is the one of the free spectrum. And I think that we may have surprises in the future about the fact that people using free frequencies, being more agile, benefiting from lower barrier to entries, may change the game in the Internet of Things. And so, I mean, we know that we will still have this classical spectrum competence, and it is important. But my strong belief is that it will not be a game changer. But free licensing can be a game changer. And so we have to really open our mind to these new models and make these free frequencies also available for startups. Thank you for your attention.